Soweto under fire. The country's largest township had a dark cloud hovering over it.
In 1976, thousands of black South African students walked out of their classrooms in protest. They weren't protesting exams or grades. They were protesting the language that they were being forced to learn in. What followed became one of the most defining uprisings of the apartheid era, and one of the most significant youth-led resistant movements of the 20th century. The film Sarafina takes place in the shadow of that moment, not as a documentary but as a musical. I'll later talk about why that choice matters. To understand the film, we need a brief historical understanding of apartheid. From 1948 until the early 1990s, South Africa operated under a legalized system of racial segregation known as apartheid. Under this system, the white minority government enforced strict racial clarification and controlled nearly every aspect of life for black South Africans, where they could live, work, travel, and go to school. Laws such as the Group Areas Act and the Pass Laws restricted movement and physically separated communities, while the Bantu Education Act created an education system designed not to empower black students, but to prepare them for limited labor roles within the economy. In 1976, the government mandated that certain schools' subjects be taught in Afrikaans, a language associated with the ruling white government. Rather than English or local African languages, for many students, this was not just about language. It symbolized political control over their future. Students in Soweto organized a mass protest. Police responded with force. The event became known as the Soweto Uprising. As documented by organizations such as the South African History Online and the Nelson Mandela Foundation, hundreds were killed or injured in the aftermath, and the uprising intensified both internal resistance and international condemnation of apartheid.
And at the same time, the students were sort of waving at them and shouting that they didn't want the police. The police should go away as they were staging a peaceful demonstration against Africans. And the two white policemen advanced, and I saw one of them picking up a stone and throwing at the children.
Sarafina is set during this period of escalating tension and youth resistance. Directed by Daryl Rue and based on the stage musical by Mongemi Gema, the film centers on high school students in Soweto, particularly a young girl named Sarafina who is navigating political awakening, identity, fear, and hope in a society structured in inequality. What makes this film especially significant within world cinemas is its form. Instead of portraying political trauma strictly through realism, it uses music, choreography, and collective performance. The protest became a song, grief became rhythm, and the classroom became a stage. This reflects a broader historical reality. In many anti-apartheid movements, music functioned as a tool of solidarity, communication, and resilience. Songs were used to unify crowds, sustain morale, and express defiance in the face of repression. The socio-political context of the film is a society built on institutional inequality. Education becomes a battleground and not just a place of learning, but a site of ideological control. Youth resistance is central. The Soweto uprising was not led by established politicians, it was led by students. Teenagers were at the forefront of national resistance, challenging a system that had defined their futures before they had a chance to define themselves. The film also represents state violence and political repression. The protest was met with force. Surveillance, detention, and imprisonment were common responses to dissent during the 1970s and 1980s. At the same time, Sarafina presents a young black woman's perspective, which is significant in both historical and cinematic terms. Women played crucial roles in the anti-apartheid activism, yet their stories have often been less visible in global narratives. The social issues represented in the film include racial segregation, educational inequality, state violence, political imprisonment, and the psychological cost of resistance. But alongside these realities, the film also portrays collective resilience. It suggests that even without systems designed to silence people, expression persists. One way to understand how real and lasting these conditions were is through people who actually lived through them. Trevor Noah, born in 1984 during the height of apartheid, grew up in a system where his very existence was illegal. His mother was black and his father was white, and under apartheid law, relationships like theirs were criminalized. In his memoir Born a Crime, Noah describes how it meant to navigate daily life as someone who did not fit into the state's rigid racial categories. His childhood reflects the long-term consequences of the same system as a student in Sarafina, or resisting a society that defines identity through law, fear, and control. At the same time, figures like Nelson Mandela, imprisoned for decades during this period, and Desmond Tutu, who brought international moral attention to apartheid, reminds us that resistance existed across generations and roles. Together, their lives show how the youth protest depicted in Sarafina fits into a broader, lived history, one that shaped families, identities, and the future of an entire country. As we watch the trailer and move into the rest of the presentation, consider this question. What does it mean to represent historical trauma through music? How does turning protest into performance shape the way global audiences understand apartheid? Those questions will guide the rest of our discussion.